Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
The thing about getting him into school with the teacher, generally, people move too slowly for my taste. Right. I would give them permission to maybe do it a little faster. If the counselor's working closely with you, there's a little success book that goes back and forth. So you guys can have a lot of celebrations. I mean, don't throw them a parade, but just be like, oh my gosh, let's see what's in your success book. So he gets the hang of the fact that this is practice stepping in rather than practice getting rid of.
Welcome to Season 7 of Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we'll talk about managing anxiety and all the other emotions too. We tackle the serious stuff without being too serious. I'm your co-host, Robin. I'm Lynn's sister-in-law, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, speaker, mom, and author. I've been a therapist for 35 years. Parenting can be a flusterclux, and I'm here to help you find your way. I'll tell you what to do and what to say. All right. Hi, everybody. Today, we are doing something that I love to do, and we do it every once in a while. We are doing an in-session session, which means that I am here with somebody. I will introduce you to her in a moment, but I am here with somebody who reached out, who wanted to talk to me about their child and how we can help with this. So what you are about to hear, and Kaitlin is sitting right here listening to this. What you are about to hear is pretty much how I conduct an initial session. So it's a consultation. It's for real. We will change details of things, but the problem that this mom is struggling with or the questions that she has are real. This is her child. This is her situation. And of course, the goal is to have it be helpful to people listening. Because I think, as you'll hear, this is not a unique situation. This isn't a unique problem, and that's why we do this. Let me introduce you to Kaitlin. Kaitlin, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. It is very generous of you to share your story so that we can talk about it and offer advice to you, of course, and also to everybody else that's listening. So thanks so much. Tell us a little bit. Tell me. We're going to pretend that none of you are listening. It's just me and Kaitlin, okay? Nobody is listening. Be quiet in the background. It's just the two of us. Okay, so tell me what's going on. Give us a little background, and then we'll dive right in.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here. A little nervous.
That's okay.
They told me not to drink coffee before this, and I did. So sorry.
All right. Well, I've had a lot of coffee too, so we will do this caffeinated together.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So I have a 7-year-old son. He's in the first grade. His name is Liam, and he is a very rigid, grumpy old man. That's how we describe him. He's in the body of a 7-year-old boy, though.
Okay.
Yes, he is very sensitive to sounds, tastes, clothing, water on the face. He's resistant to new things. He's unable to tolerate uncomfortable emotions, like not getting his way. And he was diagnosed with social anxiety and selective mutism right after he finished preschool. So that's about the time when we started noticing challenges and issues and where he wasn't up to par with his peers.
Okay. And would you mind me asking how you went about getting that diagnosis?
Yes. So we researched around to see, actually, what we really looked for was to see if he was autistic or not.
Oh, okay.
And when we went in for that evaluation, they said, no, this is social anxiety, not autism. Because we really wanted to take advantage of any resources there might be and help him wherever we needed to help him if he needed extra help and where that was.
Yep.
He didn't meet all the criteria for autism. They said he was too good of a communicator, or his communication style was not in line with the autism diagnosis.
Okay.
But they said it was social anxiety. And then he started kindergarten and he was not talking to anyone. He really had a lot of challenges that year. Wouldn't talk to anyone. He wouldn't do his schoolwork. He wouldn't walk into the school independently. He wouldn't even get a pencil out of his desk. He wouldn't write his name on his work. He was completely shut down in class.
Yeah.
And he required a lot of extra help. The staff, his counselor, his teacher. It was to the point where we just about took him out of kindergarten.
Yeah, it was just so much work for everybody and so hard for him.
Yes, it was hard on him. We tried to do things that we thought he might enjoy, like activities after school, but he was so shut down. I took him out of those too. The school ended up getting together with their counselors and their mental health specialists and the teacher to see what to do from there. And that's where I said, we need to step up what we're doing on our end. So then we ended up going to an anxiety center that had a therapist. She worked with us and ended up diagnosing his selective mutism. And we started therapy with her. We'd already done some play therapy that he was in the room with the parents out of the room. That did nothing. We did OT.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, all he did in play therapy was play Candyland with a lady, which was great. He had a fun time doing it, but it didn't help him outside of that.
Right. And you weren't involved in that?
No, we were not involved. It was closed door. We were told to sit out in the hallway. The main thing we got out of that was that he would separate from us for a little bit, and found out he was okay doing that. But that was about the only thing. So we also tried OT, or occupational therapy, for him to help with a lot of those sensitivity issues. They worked on strictly fine motor for about 5 months, and we had every issue under the sun, but fine motor was not one of them. I let that kid cut strawberries with a butter knife at that point in his life. So I was not worried about fine motor at all, but we never got help or attention to those sensitivities that he has. So then we eventually ended up at a therapist who does parent-child interaction therapy. She worked with us. She worked with him. She worked on our interactions with him. And that's when we finally started to see some progress with the selective mutism and the anxiety. She focuses a lot on externalizing the worry. She focuses on exposure therapy and teaching us to seek those things out and help him with that. So towards the end of his kindergarten year, we started to see him starting to talk and interact with other kids and the teachers. He started to do some more functioning things at school. He would do his schoolwork. He would start doing what was asked of him, as opposed to shutting down, curling up in a ball, and shutting off to the world.
Yeah. What was he like at home with you? When he was home, do you have other children? Is he the only child in the house? You have other children?
He has a little sister.
All right.
He interacts with her great. They are best friends. It's like a great sister-brother relationship.
Good. Yeah. So at home, he was a little chatterbox. Talk to her and...
Little chatterbox at home. When he goes to dentist appointments, he just chats up dental hygienists. I don't understand why in these situations he's fine and he can't stop talking. And then we get to school around peers and it's total shutdown.
Mm-hmm. And that is why it's called selective mutism. We did an episode on this, but selective mutism for a long, long time was seen as a speech and language problem. So speech and language, and then it got moved over into the anxiety disorder category, because what they were realizing, or what, those of us who were treating it realized, that it really was not a speech and language issue, because in certain settings, these kids had total ability to talk, were completely fine communicating. What's interesting is that some kids have great difficulty around adults and have no difficulty around their peers. Other kids, it's more with their peers, or it might be if they're in a situation in which they're totally familiar and comfortable, they're fine. It doesn't really matter who's there. There are some kids with selective mutism that won't talk to their grandparents, for example. So they'll be fine at home, maybe if they're in a certain activity. So it really does vary. And trying to spend a lot of time trying to figure out why they talk in one place and why they don't talk in another place really doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely our experience. But with him, it's definitely peers and larger groups of peers. So school, after school activities, that's where we start to notice speaking becomes a lot harder for him.
If he were hanging out with one of his buddies, like if he had a friend over or it was just, a child that he knew well, would he communicate fine with that child?
Yes, he would have a warm-up period if he hasn't seen that child in a while, but eventually once they start playing, he forgets all the anxiety and he just goes for it.
Okay, that's terrific. So that's all really good news. Okay. So he's in first grade now, continuing to make progress, or do you feel like where do you feel you guys are?
Yes, so we made a ton of progress last year. This year in first grade, he is speaking to his whole class. If he gets called on, he will speak, which is amazing from a child who wouldn't even make a sound last year, was wetting his pants because he was scared to go to the restroom or ask to go to the restroom. He does all of his schoolwork at school now. He's made some friends. Our real issue is that he's having such a hard time making friends when he doesn't have a designated friend. So that would be like in a situation like recess. He will not interact with anybody. Kids come up to him all the time and ask him to play. That's what I'm told. And he constantly refuses to play. He's too scared, too many kids running around. The other thing is he seems to be scared of getting hurt. So we have the interaction with peers and the risk of getting hurt on the playground. It all comes together and recess becomes what seems to be his biggest nightmare.
Does he talk about it with you? Does he talk about recess? Does he say, I hate recess, mommy, or recess is hard or scary? What does he say about it?
He says he hates recess. He loves indoor recess because they get to stay inside. It's warm. The other thing is he won't wear a coat.
Okay.
So it's cold outside too a lot of the times where we are. So inside's a lot more comfortable for him. Sometimes they have an iPad that they offer during recess, which kind of disappoints me. I'm like, no, just make him interact with people. Take the iPad option away on indoor recess days. But he says he hates recess, and it just tears me apart because that should be the most fun part of their day. And it scares me because he's going to self-isolate himself eventually to the point that I'm afraid isolation will lead to adolescent depression. So we feel very stalled because we're not there to lead the interaction at recess.
Okay. So let me relieve a little bit of your worry about this. I appreciate you saying the isolation will lead to adolescent depression. And I'm like, oh God, she heard that from me 82 times, which is true. I mean, it is true. Here's the thing, just so you know. You have already done 150% better than a lot of people do with a selectively mute 6-year-old. So you get total credit for, one, being on top of this and dealing with it early, getting him assessed, ruling the things out that you needed to rule out, being able to recognize what he needed, recognizing that playing Candyland wasn't really going to cut the mustard. Is he still going to OT at all?
No, we dropped the OT completely. It got expensive, and we found the new therapy that was actually making progress.
Okay, good. So you're making all of these really great decisions. You're really paying attention. You're advocating for him. You're concerned about the right things. For example, you're saying, I really want to make sure that he can connect with peers. You're also concerned about him being given an iPad during indoor recess. I agree with you on that. Don't give a kid who's struggling with social anxiety an iPad during the recess that he likes, for goodness sake, right? Yep. So that's good too. And it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, the school is sort of working with you in a pretty productive way?
Yes, the school has done. He needed a lot of help last year. Our counselor essentially became his para, and she's not being paid to do that, but that's essentially what happened because that was the help he needed, but he didn't qualify for any additional resources. And this year, she's helped him walk into the school more independently, but he attaches to her. So he won't walk on his own into the school. He basically has to race whoever opens the car door. They've come up with this thing with whoever opens his car door to get out of the pickup line. That person races him into the building, and then he runs to this counselor. The counselor walks him to his classroom, and she has been trying to create distance between her and getting to his room independently. So she'll stop at a tile, and then a couple days later, she'll step back a few tiles, and he's expected to finish the trek into the classroom.
And is that working?
Yes, it is. It's working in that situation, but we're not applying that to everything. It's just getting him into the classroom alone, but we can't get him to detach in other situations.
Okay. So they're dealing with specific contents. They're dealing with specific situations, but it isn't really globalizing to more situations.
Yes.
Okay. If he's with you, like if he's out with you at the grocery store or restaurant or something, does he attach to you? Does he have to keep you close by?
A little bit. It's more so in situations that there are other peers around. He will attach to either another peer that he knows very well, which sometimes annoys that peer because that kid wants to go off and play, and Liam's trying to pull that person back physically by grabbing them. That's not a way to make friends. So,
Right. Generally.
Or it'll be like a coach in some situation. He'll attach to that person. He'll attach to his teacher, like at recess. Maybe he'll find our teacher that will hang out with him. Wherever it is, he finds somebody to attach to. Like he cannot break away. But when he's with us, he knows that his expectation is that he's supposed to break away. So he does a lot better detaching from us, but he just attaches to someone else instead.
Okay. Well, and so here's the other good news that you should hear, because I said I was going to alleviate some of your worries. So you're doing a great job. He's making progress. He wants to be with people.
Mm-hmm.
He just gets overwhelmed, but he's attaching to people. So there's a part of him that he's socially anxious, but he really wants to be in the mix. It's not like he's refusing to go out for recess, or it's not like he's spending all his time alone. So he's looking for a person. So we call that these people, whatever size they happen to be, his safety crutches. The good news is that he's socially anxious and he's got a lot of people as safety crutches, which means that he is a social kid. Like he does want to play with kids. He does want to be around people. That means that we can capitalize on his desire to be in the mix. When he talks about recess, does he say that he wishes he could play with other kids? Does he feel that conflict?
Yes. So he tends to get a lot of girls as friends. All of his cousins are girls. His sister is a girl. Like girls tend to kind of mother him. And take him around and show him around things. But what his deepest desire is to play with the boys. But the boys are out playing tag and basketball. And he said, "Oh, Mom, I saw the boys playing basketball and I really wanted to play, but then I got scared, so I didn't." So he says things like that. And it hurts. I'm glad that he's making friends with girls. But at the same time, I know that he also desires like male interactions too.
Yep. Okay. All of that is such good news, because what happens oftentimes when kids are struggling with this is that you might say to him, "Liam, I was watching you at the park and it looked like you wanted to join in the game of tag, or it looked like you wanted to play basketball. Can I help you with that?" And sometimes kids are like, "No, I hate basketball," or "That's a dumb idea." Or they may say, "I don't even want to go to the park." Or it might be recess time and he might say, "I want to stay inside." The fact that he's expressing that desire and that conflict, it's hard because it's heartbreaking to you as a mom, but it means that he's in the mix. He's got a lot of self-awareness about this. This is probably another one of the reasons when they did the assessment that they didn't see him as being on the autism spectrum, because he's talking about he wants to be in the mix. So all of that is really, really good news. And one of the things that you will keep doing, which is happening now, but you will keep doing, is that you will keep putting him in situations in which there are opportunities for him to be around other kids. even if he's on the sidelines a little bit, even if he's hanging back. Like if you take him to a birthday party, what does he do?
It kind of depends on the circumstances of the party. He will attach. It depends how loud it is. If it's loud, he's more likely to stay closer to us. But if he's with more kids that he knows, he'll venture out. If he's at a party where he only knows one kid, he will try to play with that one kid, but that one kid will have friends that he doesn't know, and he gives up. He's like, oh, that kid's playing with that kid. I can't play too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So he's figuring this out. And he's also 7, so he doesn't have to go off to college for a really long time. Okay. So in terms of at home, are there any kind of accommodations or safety behaviors that you guys have gotten stuck in that maybe you feel like you need to pull back on?
Oh, yes. So he can't handle not getting his way. And his sister is the sweetest little thing, and she will get out of his way. And just to be sweet, she'll be like, for instance, the other day we only had one chocolate muffin left, and my husband said, well, if you both want it, we're going to have to split it in 2. And Liam had a total meltdown, and his little sister said, oh, Liam, you can have it if you want. And then Liam got his way, he calmed down, but meanwhile, the rest of the family is just kind of accommodating that meltdown. I mean, I wouldn't have given it to him, but I can't, what am I supposed to say? No, don't be nice to him.
Well, but what you can say, how old is she? How many years younger?
She's 2 years younger.
Okay. So what you can say is we are going to cut the chocolate muffin in half, and half goes to your sister and half goes to you. And if she says, no, he can have the whole thing, you can say to her, Liam needs to learn that he gets his share, but I don't want Liam to learn that he gets what he wants all the time. And I also don't want you to learn that you have to give him what he wants all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can say that directly to the two of them. So she tends to step in and accommodate because she feels badly, or she's not even thinking about it. She's 4 or 5, right? So she's learned that this is the way that it makes things go smoother.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Of the 2 parents, who tends to be the more likely to accommodate?
Well, it happens, most of the accommodation around here happens around food, and our son is underweight. So we just want him to eat. So we end up accommodating just to get some calories in him, because he'll freak out if a certain type of meat's on his plate. I'm not eating until all the meat's off of my plate. Well, I just want you to eat. We just need you to gain a pound or 2 here. So we do we'll take the meat off just so that he gets some calories.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you talk to your pediatrician about him being underweight, is that something that the pediatrician is concerned about?
She hasn't been.
Okay. All right. So, but
She often says, well, you and your husband are small people, so he's going to be a small person. But at the same time, I can see things on him that, I see him just being very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
So that concerns me. So I guess my husband and I we both tend to accommodate just a little bit here and there. We're pretty equal, though.
Okay. Which of the 2 of you, who's the more anxious?
Me. For sure.
For sure. Okay, there's no debate
I do the worrying for both of us. I do the over planning for both of us, and I have already over catastrophized everything coming our way.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, so you're clear about that. So you have good long-term goals here. For him to be able to play with kids, you want him to have a more varied diet. It might not be a bad idea at some point. You don't have to do it now, because at some point to work with an OT again, even through the school, that can help with some of the sensory stuff, because it sounds like he definitely could use some of that sensory coaching that OTs are really good at doing. You don't have to do it right away, but that might be something to think about. He won't put on a coat. He has difficulty with foods. He has difficulty with sounds. So we're seeing we've got that sensory profile that he may need some help with. Yeah. You've externalized his worry. Did you tell me that? Oh, and the therapist externalized it?
Yes, we have
Yes.
externalized it. At one point, he tried to multiply how many worry monsters were bugging him. So we put a nip to that because it was like, well, you got rid of one monster. Here's 5 more. It was not good.
Okay, but is he talking about, was he externalizing the specific worries?
He was externalizing a worry monster.
Okay.
And the worry monster pops up and tells him not to speak or not to play on the playground.
Okay.
And
I'm not a big fan of calling it a worry monster, actually, to be honest, because it just adds to this whole thing that this is scary. So if you have a worry monster that pops up.
okay.
So it would be like if you got caught speeding and a cop was going to give you a ticket, we wouldn't want a monster to come up and give you a ticket. We would want a normal human being to come up and give you a ticket.
Yes,
so
yeah.
if the local police department was filled with dangerous, scary, big monsters, you would be less likely to drive than if you knew, all right, well, if I get a speeding ticket, some generally nice, reasonable human being is going to come up and say, excuse me, ma'am, do you know how fast you were going? So I don't really like the worry monster analogy. I want to make it a little bit more playful and a little bit more silly to give it a name. And really, we're just going to stick with one. So it's going to be a character. It's going to be a part of him. So you can make it into a, if he likes to draw a picture, you guys like to draw a picture, something that's a little silly. Yeah. Name it Fred or name it Pete or name it Poophead, which boys love to name their worry parts Poophead. I would just call it his worry part or just his worry.
Okay. We'll drop the monster. He's at the point where he doesn't want to hear about it anymore. He's done talking about this thing that tells him what to do and makes up rules for him. He doesn't want to hear about it anymore. So I'm like, I don't know how to tell you what to do at this point.
All right. So let's take a break right now, and we're going to come back, and I'm going to tell you what to do.
Okay.
I saw this funny video recently where people were coming back into their house after they'd been away on vacation, and they were saying, oh God, is this what our house smells like to everybody else? If you have cats, you really know how important it is to make sure that your litter box does not stink. I love my kitty. I don't love her stink. We are using Pretty Litter. It obliterates odors so we can enjoy all the wonderful scents of spring and not smelling a litter box. Pretty Litter's non-clumping formula traps odor and moisture. It's ultra absorbent, it's lightweight, low dust, and 1 6-pound bag works for up to a month. Pretty Litter also gives me peace of mind. It changes color to indicate early signs of potential illnesses in my little kitty Pippa, like urinary tract infections, kidney issues, and more. Since Pretty Litter ships free right to my door, I never run out. And believe me, you don't want to run out of cat litter. I don't have to go out in the cold and lug those huge tubs from my store. Pretty Litter helps keep my house smelling fresh and clean. Try it and you'll love it. Go to prettylitter.com/flusterclux to save 20% on your first order and get a free cat toy. That's prettylitter.com/flusterclux to save 20% on your first order and get a free cat toy. prettylitter.com/flusterclux. Terms and conditions apply. See site for details. I am so interested in how people do things well. I love watching the masters do their mastery. One class I so enjoyed, Thomas Keller, talking about cooking and techniques. I'm probably not going to ever make a meringue. I'm not. But just watching how he does it and the tips that I picked up, even just talking about salt and pepper, so enjoyable. And really, it becomes kind of this way of learning that's also this amazing escape. So with Masterclass, you are learning from the best so that you can become your best. It's the only streaming platform where you can learn and grow with over 200 of the world's best. For just $10 a month billed annually, a membership with Masterclass gets you unlimited access to every instructor. John Kabat-Zinn, meditation, amazing. Esther Perel, she's got so many helpful pieces of information about communication, about love. The classes really make a difference. 88% of members feel that Masterclass has made a positive impact on their lives. That's pretty awesome. Right now, our listeners get an additional 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/fluster. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/fluster. masterclass.com/fluster. Do you ever just walk into your pantry and you're just standing there staring and you know you want something healthy and delicious and there's just nothing that's sort of filling that void? Well, this is where Thrive Market comes in. Thrive Market is my go-to online grocery store for getting all of my healthy essentials delivered. You can go in and order foods that have removed over 1,000 harmful ingredients. They also have the Healthy Swap Scanner, which is this amazing thing. You just scan a product and it instantly recommends healthier swap. I tried the Simple Mills crackers, which were delicious. I'm on a total popcorn kick right now. Lesser Evil popcorn doesn't have any ingredients that I wouldn't eat or that you wouldn't want to give to your kids. They have so many on-site filters that it makes it simple to shop by the needs of everyone in your family. You've got somebody that's gluten-free or maybe a peanut allergy. All you have to do is put in the filter and it gives you the products that work best for you. And who doesn't want to shop with a mission-driven brand? Thrive Market seeks out the highest quality brands that follow ethical practices and strict quality standards. They also accept SNAP EBT and offer free memberships for low-income families through their Thrive Gives program. Are you ready to make the switch? Go to thrivemarket.com/fluster for 30% off your first order, plus a free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/fluster. thrivemarket.com/fluster. Okay, we're back. So does he, if you talk to him about worry, does he externalizes it? He knows that he's got this part of him that tells him what to do and that bosses him around and that kind of stuff. He's pretty articulate, it sounds like, in being able to talk about it.
Yes.
So if I were meeting him and I were to say, hey, Liam, tell me how worry works, what would he say?
You know, I kind of want to ask him this question now. He would say worry maybe shows up and tries to boss him around. And he would always talk about getting rid of it, like punching it. He goes, this guy, and punches his shoulder.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So we're having troubles getting him to not try to just totally get rid of it, but to live with it. And I had him watch that Bill Hader clip you showed the other day. He was enthralled with it. He was just watching it and I thought it was so funny, but I was like, yeah, worry lives with you and you can hang out with it. So I don't know. That was a cool thing that you shared.
Yeah, somebody sent that to me and I used to show that in my workshop all the time. I sort of forgot about that video. I have a bunch of videos and then I get tired of them. I put them away, but that definitely deserved to come back. You could show that to him a lot. Don't think you just have to show it to him one time. Okay, so again, totally on the right track, Kaitlin, like totally on the right track with this. You're doing a great job. I would ask him the question, how is your worry working these days? And the other thing you really want to talk to him about is how you as a family are going to work on things that will make worry less powerful. Not make worry go away, but make it less powerful. And I would say to him, you know what? It sounds to me like you're totally sick of worry bossing you around and you don't even want to talk about it. And it's just annoying. And I get that. I completely get that. So what we're going to do is we're going to play an interesting game. And the game is, and you can say to him, this is going to sound like a crazy game at first. This is going to sound really nutty. But we're going to play a game where we're going to see if we can actually make worry show up. We're going to see if we can do stuff that makes worry show up. And you might say to him, I don't think that's going to be very hard because I think you tell me that worry shows up a lot of places, like it shows up at recess at school, or it shows up when you're getting out of the car. Sometimes it shows up when you're going to a birthday party or whatever examples you can give. It shows up at bed, whatever. So we're going to give worry a name. We're not going to call it a monster. So let's say we name it Joe. Joe shows up. And the thing about Joe, you want to say to him, I totally understand why you're bored and you're sick of dealing with Joe. because Joe is boring. Joe is boring. Joe says the same thing over and over and over again. Joe doesn't have any new tricks. Joe doesn't have any new ways to sort of get you to do what Joe does is Joe shows up and says, you better listen to me or else you're going to have big emotions and you're going to feel really uncomfortable. That's all Joe does over and over and over again. And you could say to him, I have a worry part too, as does everybody. My worry part is named whatever, Mary. And my worry part does the same thing that your worry does. My worry says, if you do this, you better follow this rule or something's going to happen. And you could say to him, for example, and you could give him an example of something that happened where you accommodated Joe. So you might say, the muffin example, you might not want to bring that up again because it involved his sister, but for the sake of our discussion, say, remember the other day when you wanted there was only one chocolate muffin left and we wanted to split it in half and you and Joe had a little bit of a freak out, didn't you? So my worry wants to show up and make it okay. My worry wants to say, give him the muffin so that Joe doesn't get mad, right? That's what my worry wants to do. We are not going to let these worry parts be so bossy anymore. And we're going to do things that make worry show up. And it's really okay if worry shows up. We're going to even expect worry to show up. That's okay. But we're going to do the opposite of what worry wants. We're going to start playing the opposite game. And you can say to him, it can sound kind of fun now, even though already he's probably thinking like, what is she going to do? Because when I'm in my office with kids and I start saying this, they're sort of all in. And then I start saying, so we're going to do the opposite of what worry wants. And it sort of dawns on them what I'm up to. And I see them like grit their teeth. And sometimes they start whispering in their mom's ear. So he may get the hang of this pretty quickly. But you say to him, we're going to be doing the opposite because the goal is to make Joe weaker. We're not going to get rid of Joe, but we're going to make Joe weaker. And the way we make Joe weaker is we practice doing the opposite of what Joe wants. And then you can give him some examples of the successes that he's had. So you can say, remember last year in school, you had a really hard time talking at all. And now you talk. Talking, every time that you talked, you made Joe weaker. Every time that you fill in the blank, you made Joe weaker. Every time that you get out of the car, you make Joe weaker. Every time, every time, every time. You really want to give him a very clear roadmap that this is the process that we're doing and that you are not going to work for Joe anymore. And one of the things that I have parents do a lot, particularly with little kids like this, is that you can pull Joe out. So Liam can be sitting on the couch. You can pull Joe out, put Joe on the couch right next to Liam and have a talk with Joe and say, listen, Joe, Liam is a pretty amazing little human being. He's learned to talk in school. He's learned to do this. He's learned to do this. He knows how to, ride a bike. He knows how to do this. He knows how to cut strawberries with a butter knife, blah, 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 blah. And then you show up, Joe, and you're like, you can't handle it. You can't handle it. And you say, I am Liam's mommy, and I will not let you get in the way of Liam doing the fun things that he wants to do. And you can say, Joe, you know what? The other day, Liam came home from school. And you can say, Joe, you probably heard him saying this, and probably inside you were like, yeehaw. Liam came home from school, and he said, I really wanted to play basketball with the other kids, but I was afraid to join. And that probably made you really happy, Joe. Doesn't make me happy. Doesn't make Liam happy. We're not putting you in charge. So I'm just putting you on notice, little worry Joe, that we're going to do the opposite. So you start making it playful. Because what happens when a parent is anxious, they're worrying, right? About, oh my gosh, what happens if I push too hard and I don't want him, he struggles enough. I want to support him. I don't want to hurt his feelings. It's so hard. He comes home and says, I wish I could do this, mommy, and I couldn't. And you're like, oh my God, I just want to snuggle him and still do all the snuggling. But take a little bit of a stance toward Joe. And that's why it's so helpful to externalize the worry, because you can give Joe a talking to while you are absolutely showing Liam that you are on Liam's side, you understand, you get it. You could also with him say to Liam, my worry is named Mary, or whatever funny name you give it. What do you think I should tell Mary? What do you think? If Mary shows up, you could ask him, do you ever see Mary showing up? You could ask both your kids. They might go, oh, mommy, yes, we know. Well, that time we went to blah, blah, blah. I'd say, well, what should I tell Mary? And get them to begin to talk in this way that creates a connection between you and Liam and distances him a little bit from Joe. And if all of you start to use that language, the reason kids get sick of it, sick of hearing about it, is because it's just tiring. They're just, right. It's just going over and over and over again. They're just getting tired of it. And so you've got to inject something that's a little more interesting and a little more novel. Novelty will get you somewhere with this because it was novel at first. And now he's like, oh, so you want to inject some novelty in it. The other thing I would really work on with him on the flexibility piece is to create the wall of flexibility. Have you heard me talk about that before?
No, I've missed that one somehow.
Okay. So you take a piece of wall in your house. It could be, like if you have a door to a pantry, somewhere that's pretty visible. Get a whole bunch of colorful sticky notes. And you say that that's the wall of flexibility. And every time that Liam or somebody else in the family handles something flexibly, you just write down a few words to it. So say we take the muffin example again. So you cut the muffin in half and your little girl got one half and Liam got the other. Liam was not thrilled about it, but he handled it. You would write on a little sticky note, shared the muffin with his sister. You put it right up on the wall of flexibility so that everybody can see it. You are saying to him and you are saying to everybody in the family, we value this thing called flexibility. So whenever he handles something, whenever he does something that he doesn't particularly want to do, whenever he tries a food or whenever he isn't rigid about what's on his plate and he manages it, he gets a little sticker on the wall of flexibility. And then he can earn things, and your daughter can too, for being flexible. She sounds like she could probably acquire 30 stickers in a day, right? Because she
would have no problem.
Right. She's the flexible to his rigid. It's sort of focus on him, but include her. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then if the family earns 10 stickies or 5, whatever you decide, then you get to do a fun thing. So we don't want to reward him with stuff, but they get to do a fun thing, like an extra book or whatever, something that he would really enjoy.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're really talking about the wall of flexibility. And then I would also do the spaghetti thing. So I would get out the uncooked spaghetti and give him a piece of uncooked spaghetti and tell him to make it into a circle. And you can have your daughter do this too. You could all do this. And of course, the spaghetti is going to break into a bunch of pieces. And you want to talk to him about being a piece of cooked spaghetti. Same concept. And at school, you can give this language to his counselor. You can give this language to his teacher so that he's being flexible at school. It's a good image. Kids really like it. It sticks with them. I need you to be cooked spaghetti. And then you're going to talk about the experiments that he does during recess, where he is not putting Joe in charge and he's being a piece of cooked spaghetti. And somebody should be talking to him about that and helping him maybe have a success book where he writes that stuff down so that he's a part of this. And you really want to treat it like an experiment, like a game, something that he's learning. It's a process. When kids come in to see me, if they're particularly rigid, and believe me, most anxious kids are pretty rigid. That's one of the natures of this particular beast. I will say to them when they come in, tell me some successes that you had. I was just talking to a college student that I've known for years, and he's got social anxiety. When I have a meeting with him, I'm like, give me your successes. What'd you do? And he tells me, and he's got a job and he goes to college, but he's reporting to me, how did I step into something that my anxiety said I shouldn't? So make it playful for him. He's been thinking about this and talking about this a lot, and you guys have been too. So make it playful for him and make it a little silly and make it a game and really keep track of the steps that he takes. The thing about getting him into school with the teacher, generally people move too slowly for my taste, right? So it's like, we're going to do one tile and then another tile and then another tile. I would give them permission to maybe do it a little faster and make it a game. And this is something that he can earn if he gets a report, if the counselor's working closely with you, there's a little success book that goes back and forth. So you guys can have a lot of celebrations. I mean, don't throw him a parade, but just be like, oh my gosh, let's see what's in your success book. So he gets the hang of the fact that this is practice stepping in rather than practice getting rid of.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take another quick break, and then we're going to come back, and you're going to ask me any questions of things that I haven't addressed yet. All right, who doesn't love the good things in life, right? A little luxury, but who likes to not pay high prices? I discovered Quince. Quince is my go-to for luxury essentials at affordable prices. So Quince offers a range of high-quality items at prices within reach. I got a Mongolian cashmere sweater, $50. It feels great. It looks great. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman, passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I love that. Give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/fluster for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/fluster to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/fluster. What if you counted the number of skincare products that are currently on your bathroom sink? I counted, and I have 13 different products. Some of them I've only used a few times, but look, JLo Beauty, that's all you need. You can go streamlined with an incredible, simple, and effective skincare routine with JLo Beauty. The thing that I love the best is the Blockbuster Hydrating Cream. You all know I live in New Hampshire. It's been a freezing cold winter. My skin, it's so much better. I can see why 100% of the people from an 8-week clinical study who tried it had smoother skin. JLo products look and feel luxurious with ingredients and packaging that you would expect from the most premium skincare products. Get more glow for less with your skincare routine. Try that JLo Beauty Deluxe Kit for 60 days. If you're not completely satisfied, just return the bottles, even if they're empty, and get your money back. Get the only skincare routine you'll ever need. Head to jlobeauty.com/flusterclux to receive 20% off plus 3 free limited time offer gifts. Head to jlobeauty.com/flusterclux for 20% off and 3 free time limited offer gifts, a $175 value. jlobeauty.com/flusterclux.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
Okay, so now back to the show. Okay, Kaitlin, we're back. I've thrown a lot at you. So what do you need to know? Give me your questions to sort of feel like you can step into this.
Okay, so when we are participating in things, sometimes Liam will participate, but at minimum. So like in soccer or t-ball, he gets out there, great. And then he's supposed to be running, and he runs as slowly as possible. And meanwhile, the whole team is looking at him, wondering. The coach is making comments about, oh, go get your teammate. I mean, I don't know at what point do I worry about just him trying to be almost oppositional to what he's supposed to be.
Okay, so he's kind of running slowly on purpose, like, I'm not going to get to first base.
Yes. I know he can run, but we are doing it the opposite way we're supposed to be doing it. And I think he doesn't want to go along with the crowd he also doesn't want attention, but that brings him more attention at the same time. But then it might also bring him some extra help.
Okay. And what does he say about it? Like if after the game you said to him, hey, you're doing this thing where you're running really slowly to first base. What's that about? What would he say?
Well, we have just been so happy that he's out there trying that we haven't addressed.
Yes, right. Okay. Which I totally agree with. Really, you're saying to me, he goes to T-ball. Yay! I mean, good for you. You're really doing a great job. So that might be an interesting question to ask him, to say to him, what's that about? And he might say, I don't know. Or he might give you an answer. He might give you a kooky answer to say, well, my feet are too heavy. Or he might say, I'm tired. You can say to him, you know what? I am so delighted that you go to T-ball. I love that you go to T-ball. But part of going to T-ball is that you learn the rules of T-ball and not the rules of Joe. So it seems to me maybe when you're running as slow as you can to first base, that might be a Joe rule, but it's not a T-ball rule. The way you might talk to him about it is give him an example of how it's important to follow the rules and make it kind of silly. And you could even say, I heard a story recently. So this man was driving in a car and you could say to him, see how the speed limit is 40? That means that I'm supposed to go about 40 and I can go a little bit under, a little bit over, but I'm supposed to really sort of aim to go about 40. And if I went really, really fast and broke that rule, then I get a speeding ticket. But you know what? If I went really, really slow, I could also get a speeding ticket. And I heard a story about a man and the speed limit was 40 and he was driving 10. And you could even slow down, like if you were on your street or whatever. He was driving this slow and you could slow down to 10. And he was breaking the rule in a way that was slow, but didn't really work either. And then the goal is to tell him a story to make it playful so that he understands. And you could say, so when we play a game, like we play T-ball, or when we drive a car, or have you guys ever flown on an airplane as a family?
Yes.
Okay. So you can say that, like there's certain rules you follow on the airplane, and don't talk about like because of safety, right? Just don't say that. But there are certain things, or, there might be things at school where they play certain games or there are certain ways that they do things. And sometimes when you're going too slow or you're not following the rule or you're breaking the rule in some way, sometimes that can be Joe bossing you around. So the big rules that we want to break are the rules that Joe makes. But the rules of T-ball or the rules of, you can come up with anything, the rules at the dinner table or whatever, those aren't the rules that we're going to break. And so I wouldn't get too far into it. Like if you keep running slow like that, people are going to blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the coach is going to get mad or the kids are going to make fun of you or you're going to get blah, blah, blah. Stay away from that because we want him to keep going to T-ball. But just present this thing to him about how it's important to know what are the rules that we follow and what are the rules that we break. And we break Joe rules because he's not giving you good advice. He's really not giving you good advice. And you can say to him, can you imagine if when I was learning how to drive when I was a teenager that my mom or my dad told me that I should drive 10 miles an hour? Wouldn't that be a silly thing to say? Oh my goodness, right? You're talking to him about the skill of differentiation, which is what we did a few weeks ago on the podcast, the ability to know which rule to break and which rule not to break. The thing about him is because he's socially anxious, he's paying attention. He's watching and he's trying to figure out how he connects and how he fits in. So you're seeing him experiment with that. This is a long-term project. This is a marathon, not a sprint. I wouldn't take him out of the, T-ball and that kind of stuff. If he likes to go, or even if he sort of likes to go, if he's willing to participate, he wants to be in the mix, all of that is terrific. But I would talk to him about this rules thing and breaking the rule. There was a funny video. Did you see it? It probably went viral on Instagram or something about the little kid running in slow motion to home base. Did you see that?
No.
And everybody was laughing. It was as if he saw some clip. He looked like he was about 4 and he was like doing the whole thing running in slow motion. It was pretty funny. And then I also saw a clip recently where a little kid was playing t-ball. They were somersaulting all the way to first base. So this is not a unique affliction, that the creativity of running to first base. But you can just talk to him as, we're going to follow the rules that work and we're going to break the rules that Joe makes, or whatever he calls it. Yeah, that's going to help. But you just keep giving him these examples. The more silly that the stories are, the more that you can get him interested in the story, the better, because kids really like to be able to hear about this in a different way. They get bored with hearing like, oh, that's your worry talking. And I use stories and metaphors all the time because they, even for adults, they're memorable. How does bedtime go, by the way?
He actually never has any sleeping problems. He likes to stay up and play in his bed for a little while, but eventually he'll go to sleep. So luckily, that's one of the issues we don't have.
Okay, good. No, that's great. Yeah. I think overall, based on where he started and where he is, I think you should feel so proud of your parenting and so good about what you've done so far. And now we're just bumping it up to the next level. You're going to work on your accommodation, and don't be afraid of him getting upset. He gets upset a lot?
Yes, he gets upset more than, your typical child, I would say.
Yes, right, because he's got sensory issues and he's rigid and he wants things to go a certain way. And so he doesn't have a lot of tolerance for those big feelings or when things don't go his way. You're going to do the wall of flexibility. You're going to do the spaghetti thing with him. You're going to talk about what rules you follow and what rules you break. You're going to externalize your own worry so that he has a way of seeing it in somebody instead of him. And ask your kids, when do you think Mary shows up? Kids love to go to town on that. And create that success communication, even with the school back and forth. And tell the school that they don't have to take it so slow, that you're working on this together. If he names his worry something, make sure that they know about that. It sounds like you're in good communication with the school. But at home, don't be afraid of him getting upset, and even say to him, it is really okay when you're having these big feelings or when something doesn't go the way you want it to go or when Joe's being really bossy. I totally expect that you'll get upset, and I'm right here. And as soon as you need a hug or you need some love, I'm sitting right here to give it. Yeah, just talk 85% less. You're going to have to coach up your little girl here that we don't want her to be the accommodator. I get it, but hold your ground. Let him be upset. Let him tolerate not getting things the way he wants them, with you being right there to love and support him so that he can get through it, and have him build up a little bit more of that tolerance for things not going his way. And he's going to get rewarded when he handles it. So the next time you're cutting a muffin in half and he gives half to his sister and takes half for himself and he doesn't have a meltdown, he could be unhappy about it. You're going to be like, woohoo, that is a victory. Way to go. Yeah. So we're going to throw a lot of positive stuff at him. But the fact that you had a kindergartner that was not talking and you've got a first grader that is now talking, that means you and the therapist and the school have all worked really, really well together. So good for you.
It was hard. We're getting there.
I'm sure. And it's going to continue to be hard, but you're on the right track. And don't let your catastrophic mommy brain jump into the future and go all catastrophic, because that's what our mommy brains do anyway. But sometimes they're a little more quick and they can go far. So recognize when you're doing that, whatever you name your worry, you'd be like, I'm not playing that game with you.
Thank you for having me.
Your story and what you're describing is going to be something that so many people can relate to and understand. So you have given many people a very big gift by agreeing to do this, and I appreciate it. Again, I truly do. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find this information.
And if you'd like to dig deeper on any of these topics, we have specialized playlists on our Spotify profile, and the link is in the show notes. Topics like teens, depression, and OCD. Bye, Lynn.
Bye, Robin.
Are you a parent in need of a laugh and a little escape? Look no further. Parenting is a Joke is the podcast you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm a stand-up comic and parent. And each week I chat with one of my top comedian pals who, just like you, are juggling careers, busy lives and schedules, and raising a family. You can expect candid stories, hilarious mishaps that happen on stage and at home, and just a lot of laughs. There's no expert advice here. Well, actually, sometimes a good idea does sneak its way in, but mostly just pure, relatable fun to remind you that we're all in this parenting adventure together. New episodes of Parenting is a Joke drop every Tuesday, so tune in, get ready to laugh, unwind, and maybe even feel a little bit better about your own parenting. Because sometimes that's exactly what your therapist, pediatrician, and bartender ordered. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform.